Okay, so I went back in and just did some rebake and merged the maps back together again, and it was things like this. I'd forgotten to move the high poly rivet points up as much as anything else, so I had to take that out, and I took out the edges there because they were just affecting the bake. But other than that, everything else sort of stayed the same. So I've combined on my maps. I've saved this, I think, as my radio master. Do that one again. So I've got the master PSD and I've also got the other bits out. So Substance Painter. So let's open up Substance and see where we go from there. When it first opens up, it will look something a little like this. Going to close that down, File and New. And in this section here, I want to make sure that this is PBR Metallic Roughness, the algorithmic preset. And then I'm going to come into my file and I want to select my radio low poly, not the baked one. And then I'm going to work at a resolution of 2K. When you're working at 4K, it can cause issues. I'm going to check that on, and then I want to add in my materials. Bake, so the targets. Open. And then OK. So then this will bring in my radio. So I've got that there, which is my low poly. And then over in my texture set settings, I will come over and then I will come down to where it says set normal map. And then I can just plug in these ID map. I'm going to use my color there and then ambient occlusion. And when I move around, that will update and load. And now that is looking pretty decent for me. I'm okay with this. So, oops. It's playing up a little bit. Now I've got those sections there on there working. I've got a bit of an issue there with the bake. So I mustn't have adjusted the cage properly on that. So I need to go back again and just sort of fix that. But I'm not going to worry too much about that right now. I'll do that later. I'm just going to go over the process within Substance Painter now, and everything's looking pretty decent. So how do we start? How do we get going? Now we can use this ID map really nicely. Okay, so it's very useful for us. But first of all, what I want to do is just bake in the rest of these maps. So if I go to Bake Mesh Maps, change it so it's the same resolution at 2K, sorry. Turn off normals because I've already got it. I've already got IDs and I've already got ambient occlusion. The reason why I'm baking them in here with the curvature, for example, is just hit bake, is so that I can utilize the smart materials. And because the smart materials uses the curvature map, for the most part, by generating it within this software itself, you can tend to get like better reads anyway. So anyway, I've got all those maps. I'm going to come back into my layers and start texturing this. So I already kind of know that the sort of material that I want, but first of all, let me just come back into our radio and get my reference images up. Don't want to be painting blind. So we've kind of got this thing that we're after. And it's this kind of that subtle kind of leather effect there, which we're going to go for. So there is already within this software, if I go to Smart Materials, and I'm going to type in leather, there is the leather sofa. If I just hover over it, it will make it a little larger. But I know that that is the same sort of pattern that I'm after. So the first thing that I do is actually come over and create a new folder. So this works very similar to Photoshop. So I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to drag leather sofa inside this folder, and it will just apply it to the whole mesh. And then I can rename this leather. Now, obviously we don't want it on the whole mesh, so we need to kind of look at adjusting it. And at the moment, it's a little bit too strong, it's a bit too bumpy. So we can have a look at how we can sort of fix this. First thing though, I'm going to right click on the overall folder and go to apply a mask by color selection. And then that will apply a black mask which hides everything. And now I can use my material ID with a color picker to select that kind of teal, and then it isolates only to the sections that I've designated. So it's a really powerful way of texturing. So that's that for one section. Pardon me. Now, if I open up the leather sofa, we can come down and just use a little eye tool to see what's actually happening. So worn edges, if there are any, are knocking around. We've got the colour. So I can come into this colour and then I can change the colour if I wish to whatever I want. I could even go to this drop down menu and go to ID. So I've got this colour here. Click on that and then click and hold the eyedropper and select there. What's quite nice about this as well is that I'm going to go, let's just make this a bit smaller for a second. I can select this color, get the eyedropper, and I can actually drag off the application. So I can get a color from, say the desktop or anywhere online. And then that is now that color. If I was to put it back to my material, we've now got that color, which is kind of similar, but perhaps I actually want the color from this. So let's take this one and I'll just select that, get my color picker, and I'm just going to drag it over the top until I kind of get the shade that I'm after. So maybe there. So the lighting on this is a bit dull. So then I've got that. I might want it a little brighter. That's just a little happier, I suppose. So yeah, we've got that, and it's got a few damages in it. It's a little bit strong on the thing, and perhaps the pattern's a little too large. So I'm going to come to the leather here, and this is where it's got all the other things. So I can increase the scale. So if I do 4, and then the repetition is going to kind of repeat, so it's a little bit smaller, which is good. And then I can come in here and I can edit like roughness, or I can affect so it doesn't affect the height. And the normal, that will make it flat, so we don't want it completely flat. So let's just have a look, not the attributes, the parameters, perhaps, basic parameters. So normal intensity, I can just lower that a little bit, so it's not quite as strong. So it's a little bit more subtle, trying to match what we've got. I can also perhaps lower the ambient occlusion. That might kind of bring it down a bit. Height position. Lower that down. That's making the sign stick out a little bit more, which is nice. So by bringing that height position down a little. So yeah, you can just sort of tweak this and get it looking how you kind of want. Let's zoom out a little. And then we've got there's sort of blemishes, but I don't mind particularly. This particular material, I don't think I can pull those out, but it's fine. I'm okay with this. So then I've got that done, and I'm kind of happy with it. Next thing we've got would be perhaps the brass. So I'm just going to close that folder. Enameling in folders just helps keep things easier. Oops, pull that to the top. Label this brass. And then I might just go to just my normal materials because I've got a pure brass here. And I'm going to drag this in. And obviously it covers everything, which is not what I want. So I'm going to select the folder, mask by color selection, pick a color, and then I'm going to pick the yellow. And we've got that coming in. Now, if I zoom in, have a little look at this. Now I need to also remember that I'm only working in 2K, so it's going to be a little bit lower, but I can increase if the mouse decides to work the intolerance a bit. So it will look to expand that kind of search for the color to get a better kind of result. So just double check over everything else. Yep, that's looking okay. I don't really know what the front mesh is supposed to be. I don't know if that's the same brass or not. It kind of looks a little bit darker, but I'm for now just going to pick it anyway. So I'm just going to come in and pick that color too. So then it selects kind of that there. And again, it's looking a little rough, but if I come into texture set settings, I can always crank that to 4K. And the quality will be much higher. So when we export these maps out, that's kind of where I'm thinking. So this is just to work with, and so long as and to keep it sort of nice and easy. And also you'll notice that from the last one, those hard edges are gone, and that's just because I smoothed that edge out. So next thing I want is perhaps behind this mesh, is it fabric kind of thing going on? So maybe I don't want it to be rough fabric, so maybe it will be something like this. So I'm going to come over to my layers and just create a new layer, fabric, and drop that in that layer. Then no, I don't like that at all. What about this one? Maybe it's a baseball hat or sort of denim. And it might be worth just cranking up to 4K just to see the overall kind of finish, because not sure. Fabric knit, no. Fabric rough, no. Fabric rough, no. I'm just playing around essentially. Leather, don't want leather. Classic. Scarf wool. No. I think I might go for fabric rough. Something like that you tend to get. And make sure that's end there rather than anywhere else. Then I will add mask by color selection. And this time I'm going to select the black. Oops. Like that. But one thing that I need to make sure is that the fabric rough, the color is black for this, or very dark grey. Like so. But one thing to note is that also these areas here are black, which I don't particularly want to be fabric. So, and there as well. So to get rid of that, I'm just going to come into this, and go right click and add a paint layer, which will then allow me, it should do, to mask that out. So it might go to 2D only. My mouse is playing up. Come in. It's painting out color. But it's keeping the fabric, which is not what I want. Hang on a minute. I think I'm going to right click on here as well on the 2D, and I'll make sure that this is on UV. But right now it should be switching, and it's not, which is, when I hit X it should switch between black and white. So let's just get rid of that altogether. Let's just step back a few. Very strange why it's not working. Well, it's always the way. My mouse full stop is not working properly. It's rather infuriating. So I'm just going to step back a few and try and think, what am I doing? That's that fabric. So that's where it is, and I should be able to right click, add a paint layer, and just paint it out, but it's not seeming. Letting me get rid of the colour, but not the normal. Okay, so I'm just going to add a mask directly on to the fabric itself as well, then that works. But it should have worked. I don't know why it hasn't. But there we go. Workaround. But hey, never mind. So we got that there. We're going through, and then what I want to know is what are they brass as well? Not quite. It's that kind of plastic dull thing that's the same as that top there. So again, I'm just going to go through and get like my materials, add a new folder, trim, and then I can just drag that in. It's horrific. So rubber, there's a smart material called rubber. You can kind of just play around with the elements. So quite maybe plastic rubber. I want something smooth. Perhaps this one. Yeah. And then right click, add by color selection, pick a color, then go for the pink. So then that's all nice in there. So it's quite straightforward, really, when you think about it. Color. And I will bring this over here. This one, and I'll use my color picker to select it. Where are you? Wherever it may be. Oh, no, I've already got it. Selection, color picker. What am I doing? I've already done it. There we go. Color, and picker. That's what I was after. So something like that. And then it's not quite as shiny as this. So I'm going to come in and then maybe increase my roughness just a bit so it's got more of a sort of plasticky feel. Then that's kind of there. Need to do the screen, that'll come afterwards. Folder, display, I may use the same material, the base, just for now. Color selection, pick a color, red, and then you can sort of see that there. I'll come in again and go to my color selection. No, sorry. Plastic. Base color. Select it from the actual image. Not perfect, but maybe slightly more orange. And then just increase the roughness a little so it's less reflective and shiny. We got that. Those are these. So you end up with basically all these layers, and they stack just like they would do. So anything that's on top would affect all the ones below, unless you got it masked. I'm just going to throw the same one in there this time. Right click, color selection, pick a color, and then I'm going to select this black. Hang on. Why have you not worked? Oh, turn the eye off, that's why. 3D only, so then we've got that sort of in place. I want to make sure that it isn't interfering with this. So what I need to do is just right click. Should have put these as different colors. The black mask. And I should be able to paint that back in. That's not quite worked, but I'm going to leave it for now. That'll do. And then I'll come in and Chrome materials. Sure, there's a Chrome somewhere. There's a Chrome there. So we'll just do that. New folder. Drag in the Chrome. So it's all starting to slowly come together. And then, for example, we've got like the text on here. So you've got, you know, favorite mode, menu, that kind of thing. We can just create another layer and we can go to Where are you? Brushes. And you got all these kind of brushes which you can add like kind of marks to and that kind of stuff. So create a paint layer, and you can just sort of start painting in like kind of anything on here that you wish. The stitching, which is kind of what we're going to need to do. So stitch stripes, or maybe where are you, alphas? Stitch. So we've got the stitch thing here, and then what we can do, so when I do that, we can see how it kind of works. Not that one. With this, what I can do is come in and change the angle. Say 0. So then it's this way around. Then it's going in that direction. But what I want to do is go into my 2D view only, because we want to go, there's my strap basically. So what I want to do is come in here. The stitching is white, so we've got that there. But we want to see here, what do we want it to affect? Our color, yes. Our height, roughness, yes. Metalness, yes. Normal, yes. So the base color, I want it white, but I don't want it pure white. So I'm just going to bring it down a little so it's slightly off. Then our height, I want it to be raised, so I'm going to lift that up. Roughness is going to be pretty low, or pretty high, sorry, because it's not going to be shiny. It's not metal. And then we've got the normal sort of in there. And then what I do is I'm going to scale it. And then I'm going to click once, hold down Shift and Control. Oops. So I'm going to click, hold down Shift and Control and click. And then that'll do the whole one. Shift and Control and click. So then I've got that whole stitch 3D only that goes over there, although I need to have it underneath. And I've gone too far because I've gone onto that. So go to 2D only, which shouldn't do because that's there. I want to make sure that it's on UV space only then. And then I'm going to do it on the underside. So 1, oops. And I think the height was a little too high. So I'm going to click once, hold down Shift and Control and click, and then do it again there. And that's why when we UV, we want to have things straight. So now I've got that information underneath, which looks great. You can see it kind of goes down to the bottom there. Then also, where are we? Alphas, brushes, I think, is in the brush. Can't remember where they are now. It's not in the brushes, no. Is it in the alphas? Yes, it is. So I've got like these text button icons here. So, and I can bring in text from, I can import my own alphas from Photoshop if I want. But for example, this is just going to be fine for me right now. So I'm going to take this font here. And then I'm going to say text in this menu here, and then just put mode. And then I'll come into my 2D because it'll be a little easier for me. My mouse is just really not liking it. And then I can increase the size. And again, same concept. What do I want it to affect? And the color for this is going to be black. Like so. Then I don't want it to affect height. I don't want it to affect my normal map. I do potentially want it to be the roughness and the color. So the roughness is going to be slightly low, so it'll be shinier. And then the metallic is that, so it's fine. So then I'll just come in and just click and it'll stamp, or it should do. If I open a new layer, text, right click, add a paint, or just click on there, add a paint layer. throw it into the text. Okay. So tiling mode, HV, flip, sizing, position, center, text, attributes. So I'm going to come up, spacing, no spacing. That's blue. It needs to be 90 degrees, I think this one. Alignment, UV. Okay, why are you not working for me? I'm missing something really obvious. Why are you not playing ball? I do it's not what I want as a stencil. It'll work, but it's not what I want, because then it just fills in that. But I should be able to just stamp it on. So hang on. Brush, basic. And then my alpha shape can then get there in the end. Text. So then it stamps on. Okay, but then it's not allowing me to. Okay. Oh, okay. So you would have to. Normally, what I've done is literally just import from Photoshop the things that I want. But in this case, it doesn't seem to particularly want to let me. So what I will do is just come into my alphas. It's not allowing me to change that at all. The text of it. It's there. Okay. So let's just create a new folder. Onto my alpha. Create a paint layer. Select deck. Or is it the substance ones? Are they the only ones that can type? Let me just try that. Magic brush. Take that one in. Ah, yeah. Sorry. Me being a bit silly. So those deck ones were just done. So we can do that. So then mode, get there in the end, and then I should be able to just stamp that on, which I can. So I'm going to increase that, and I'm just going to stamp that in just a few times. Mode, got there in the end. Menu. I'm just eyeing this in right now. It can be more specific when you do it. Auto tune. That's a little big. So there's the annoying thing. Let's start with the largest, shall we? Info/dimmer. And you see at the moment, this mouse is not good for this. See where it's cropping it at the moment? So what we can do is select it's a really simple thing and I just can't remember where it is. Make sure that's on UV. Oh. So yeah, I think there's a way. I mean, what I'm going to do is just increase the size of the brush and then come and decrease the size of the alpha like that. But I'm sure there is a different way of doing it. But that'll do for now. So dimmer. And then I've got auto tune. And then I want to erase those. So I'm just going to switch to my eraser. Get rid of those. Come back to my brush. Full mode. Mode is this one. And menu. Don't like that. Then back to my brush. Back into mode. Just line that up a little bit better. Whilst I'm here. Volume. So on this one I can't see where it's supposed to be. So I'm going to come into my 3D. And I'm going to stamp it on there. Tuning. Kind of come across roughly in place. I'm not being too careful about this, as you can probably tell. Fogs in. And then I'd need a little headphone icon, which I haven't got, but I'll do that in Photoshop and bring that in. Reset. And favorite. And then you'd have the Persian on and all the other like things that you might have in here. So that is that for now. I can just close off the alpha. Come back to my brushes. You can just select a standard kind of brush. You've got that kind of there. Now I could, if I wanted to, add a little bit of dirt or noise. So let's just grab this dirt. If I spread that across, you can see what it does. Pardon me. But what I might do is just add a new layer in here, and then on the specular. If I just click on there, it'll say create a new paint layer. Yes, please. Stick it into my specular. Because what I want to do is come down here and say, I don't want this to affect any color or any metallic or normal or height or anything. I just want it to affect my roughness. So then I'll come up and I'll make it quite high on the roughness scale, and then just come in and paint that in there. So as you see, if we change from the light, we can essentially affect the surface noise on here. So there's a little bit more wear to it, or I can just come back because that's a bit strong. And just add some variation to break up that light a little bit on that surface and so forth. And you can just kind of come through and maybe just do a little bit on there, a little bit on there, just to break it up a little bit so it's not just so smooth and brand new, I suppose. And you can kind of come through and just sort of paint all over, just little bits here and there. And essentially that's kind of how you go about it. I haven't actually textured the buttons yet, so I might just create a new folder, and then I'll drop that underneath there, and then this will be the buttons or rubber, whatever you want to call it. And come into my smart materials, rubber, and then I'm going to use maybe something like that. Make sure that that is in my buttons file. Right click, and then I'm going to mask by color selection once again, and then I'm going to pick that color there, and then this needs to be that kind of off-white color. So texturing can be pretty straightforward within this. Obviously, you want to put in a little bit more. I might just take the dirt off. Okay, so it's not that. I'm not sure I like that, so I will delete it. I'm going to use the same one as before. And then I will open that up, go to my color selection, and yeah, I'm just going to pick straight from there, I think. So that's nice off-white. And then I will come down and just increase the roughness a bit, so it's kind of more kind of rubbery, I suppose. And pretty much that's for the most part. There's so much more that you can do within this software and blending and that kind of stuff, and using masks. So for example, maybe I want to add some roughness, or sorry, some dust or something. So I might come in here and just sort of say dust, and we've got some kind of dust stuff here. And then if I was to create a new layer, dust, and throw this into here, you'll see that dust now covers all of it. Now, it's not particularly natural for dust to sort of sit all over it, especially underneath. So what I might want to do with this is actually select my dust and go to add color selection. But this time, rather than using my ID map, what I might do is say to use my world space normals. And what that does is it recognizes, if I come in here, world space normals, that the top face is green, bottom face is pink, and so forth. So it recognizes the direction of something. So if of the object, sorry. So if I come in here and say world space normals, and then pick a color, now I can pick that top green, and you'll see that it only will affect the top surface. And then I can increase the tolerance, so it kind of starts to go over the edge, and the hardness I want to kind of reduce, so then it's not a little bit softer. And then we've got kind of a bit of that information going in. So it's a really powerful bit of kit. to generate some really nice kind of images. And then once I'm kind of done, and I might want to kind of render it out, well, we can do some renders from here, that's for sure, but I want to take it back into Marmoset, so we'll do that next anyway. But at the very least from here, if we've not got access to Marmoset, what I can do is just come over to my texture set settings. I'm going to turn it up to 4K. And then I will, so it's looking its best. And then, where are we? Quality, I'll stick the quality up to ultra, because why not? And then I can come in and go to mode and rendering. And it will take me to my rendering. Set. Where is my rendering? Here, so this one here. So here, I will render a minimum samples of 5 for a maximum of 10 seconds. So I might say, actually, I want this to render out for 30 seconds. And hit go, and then it will render 30 seconds, 4,000. We want to make sure this is on and basically render. We option here, we can go instead. Perspective view for a second. Or a little bit too close in. But yeah, we can come in. I can clear that. We've got a bit of a flaw, that's fine. So you want to kind of make sure you choose titles, and you go through. You can just sort of render it out, studio lighting. But I'm not going to worry too much about go back into painting because I do want to take it into Marmoset. So once I've got it and I'm happy with the way in which it's looking, I'm going to go to File, Export Textures, and there's lots of sort of templates here which you can kind of go with, or we can come in and I've got a list of exports. I've got the base color. I don't need the emissive, height, metallic, normal, roughness. If I come in here, you can see the kind of meshes that I've got that's coming out as well. So I've got, I don't want to do that. Where is my PBR metallic roughness? And then I've got base color, roughness, metallic, normal, height, emissive. I don't need the emissive. Don't really need the height. But what I do need, or what I do want, is ambient occlusion. So what I'll do is just come over mixed ambient occlusion, or this would be a grayscale map. And I'll drop it in there. Gray channel. So that should be ambient occlusion. So I'll just copy that, and then rename this AO for ambient occlusion. So that should be, and I prefer Targus myself. TGA, got that in the end. So we should get base color, roughness, metallic, normal, and ambient occlusion from this. So I can come over here and create a new preset. Hit Pierce, which should be now stored within here. And you got the mesh maps there, so normal and all that kind of stuff. But if I go to settings, I want to come down and select Pierce. It should be AA, base color, metallic, roughness in there, so it's all there now. That's where I could have just changed them all to TGA, to be fair. TGA, base into set size, and yeah, so I'm going to take them out to 4K, and okay, and then save settings. Oops. Export textures. Yes, the settings, and then I'm going to hit change the destination first of all. And radio, images, maps. Select that there, and then save. Not settings. Maps, and then export. Then it will do its thing, and then we'll see. Open this up in Marmoset afterwards.